Yo, what's going on guys, my name is Revonlieke and welcome. You may call me Rev for short, if that pleases you. Today I figured I would talk a little bit about Monster Hunter in general and the RNG specifically. What is RNG and why certain types work and others don't actually work that good. And why it actually is important for the overarching endgame of Monster Hunter. Why RNG is so pivotal in that part of the game. The RNG idea in video games is kinda simple. Some of you might know what RNG is, some of you don't, so I'm just gonna explain that RNG is basically just random number generator that will eventually reward you with things within a video game. So generally speaking, you are rewarded for completing a task with a pool of items that represent the dice basically. You roll the dice and depending on your roll, you might get something good or something bad. You might get a good item, you might get a bad item. It's a simple system and you can kind of calculate the odds of getting a certain roll based on the percentage. For example, a dice, has 6 sides to it, so your chances are 1 in 6, and percentage-wise that is 16.67% chance. Strictly speaking, that isn't exactly how it works in Monster Hunter. Since Monster Hunter has different pools of items, larger and smaller pools and other things that factor into that RNG, but basically it's the same system and you can calculate if something is 1% chance, 2% chance and so on. In Monster Hunter, of course, RNG has many phases to it. Those are good and bad phases. Some are actually really fun and rewarding and others suck so much that you really wonder who made this and were they so out of it that they didn't even realize it was a problem in the first place. Alright, so hopefully this video so far has been somewhat interesting and maybe even funny for you guys, I don't know. So let's hop into the RNG of Monster Hunter a little bit deeper. So in general, I think everyone agrees that in the game the monster rewards are a kind of a good type of RNG, because whatever you do, as long as you hunt a specific monster, you're kinda guaranteed to be rewarded with materials from that monster. You hunt a Rathalos, you get Rathalos materials. The reason it works is because you don't care about the drops as much, whether that's wings or tails or whatever, as long as you eventually are able to craft the actual armor and the weapon from the monster, and that is your true reward. That is of course as long as you are able to eventually get the rarity items as well, those are mantles, gems, rubies, and not be an old man by the time you get one. This is why it is also important to keep these specific rarities tied to a specific monster reward. While Monster Hunter has been pretty consistent with this, and I think Monster Hunter Rise does a pretty good job at keeping RNG based rarities in check, there have been other systems they've tried to implement that alleviate the fundamental problem of RNG. That problem being that sometimes you just roll a bad number and you get bad materials. These systems being melding golden tickets and lotteries. But you want to keep these systems relative to as if you would hunt an actual monster. Otherwise it feels like cheating. Go meld a ticket and you get the gem. And that's why so many of these systems fail and break a core part of the game. Everyone else is hunting the monsters while you're just melding tickets. There are people who cannot be as invested in a video game daily, of course, but really want to enjoy your game, but are deterred by the RNG actively trying to kind of fight against them, and that causes people to have mixed feelings about your game. They hunt the Rathalos multiple times, they don't get the reward, so instead they rely on your artificial systems. Obviously you want to give the players a satisfaction of a job well done, finally rewarding them with something for their hard work. The issue of course being that not everyone is treated equally. Someone might hunt a Stygian Ogre just 2 times and get a Stygian Sky Emerald, and someone else just hunts it 15 to 20 times and not even get a 1. Obviously that is going to hit everyone differently. I myself enjoy that aspect of Monster Hunter because I know from experience that I'm putting myself into that possible outcome, that today I might not be able to get that Sky Emerald. But other people are not me, and the developers have to come up with solutions to RNG to reward players who just want to play a couple hours a day and be equally rewarded. But fundamentally, if you consider every type of a gamer, you end up pleasing no one basically. Monster Hunter is really based on RNG at its core. It is an impossible task with no solutions, without taking key parts away from the other team, and eventually you have to start thinking, well, why did we create a franchise that is so tied to RNG at its core? What can we do to alleviate bad RNG roles? And why are we even trying to please an audience that didn't like RNG in the first place? If you deviate too much into certain directions with RNG rewards, you alienate a part of a community that enjoys your franchise for it. If you make RNG more difficult, for example, you will alienate those that play a couple hours a day. If you alleviate RNG and make it more easier, well, you just alienated your core audience. I'm not saying of course that you have to be a fan of RNG to enjoy Monster Hunter, but ignoring that at its core, the reason why Monster Hunter is so rewarding at times is because it rewards the player who put the time into it. It doesn't mean that people who play for fun shouldn't be rewarded, but as I said, it is an impossible task to fix, and fundamentally you are developing the wrong game. Think about that. Alternatively, you can test the waters of course. With each installment you can improve upon on the next installment. Monster Hunter franchise does a pretty good job at this, always trying new ways to improve upon the frustration that RNG is. To add to this and to not make things too rambly, there are certain arguments that there are other games that you can look into that can handle RNG a little bit better and still reward players in a good way. Final Fantasy XIV does a great job at, rewarding players just from being active in the game. Play the game, enjoy your time, and you're rewarded with things eventually. And the developers of that game actively try to fight against RNG as much as possible, because RNG in general is considered bad. Now, Monster Hunter does try to do these things where it tries to consider new systems and whatnot, but the core game of Monster Hunter is heavily based on RNG. And if you're trying to alleviate that RNG, well, why did you create this franchise in the first place? That is the question. Eventually you're just going to muddy the waters and no one is going to enjoy your game because it's not Monster Hunter anymore. So that's about it. Originally this video was supposed to go a little bit deeper into my own opinions on certain reward systems of Monster Hunter, like Kulvetaroth, Safichiva, for use guiding lands and investigations even. But I kinda opted out to not include those, as otherwise this video would have been way too long. So I'll just leave you with these thoughts. Many of the items in Monster Hunter have become kind of a commodity. They have increased drop rates, shiny drops and other systems have been placed to kinda help with the RNG system, all because they don't want to make people shy away from the game. As I said, Monster Hunter Rise kinda balances things where it does have those systems in place, but still the rarity items are relatively rare, which is nice to see. And overall it has become less and less impressive to see someone in Black Fatalis armor, for example, because everyone can achieve it by not even killing Black Fatalis anymore. Is that good or is that bad? I kinda don't know myself. I kinda let you decide on that. But I hope that Sunbreak brings something good to the table. I'm eager to see what they bring. Will it have systems that make people want to turn away from the game? Or will it figure out an RNG system that is finally something fun, entertaining and rewarding, but also something that makes fans that enjoy the grind not be done with it in a day? We've seen this in Monster Hunter World, Iceborne and even in Monster Hunter Rise, where new content is released and we're done with it within a day, simply because the system just doesn't allow us to spend more time with it. I just hope one day that we will see systems that utilize all the good parts of each iteration of an RNG system. That's about it. Thank you for watching. My name is Revonlieke and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye bye.